Hey guys, King Nintendo fanboy Justin Berube here with another Nintendo 64 controller video. Now, this video today is going to be for Nintendo 64 control stick maintenance. As we all know, these sticks wear out pretty quickly, and you're left without much of a solution. Now, this video isn't going to show you how to repair a damaged stick, but I'll talk about how they do get damaged once I take it apart. But what I'm going to show you today is how to lubricate this stick to make it last longer. Hopefully, if you do this, your Nintendo 64 sticks will feel smoother and won't wear out as fast. Now, I recommend doing this with a N64 controller that hasn't worn out much at all. The smoother the better. But you can, like I said, you can do it to a damaged one. You can also take high-quality replacement control sticks, which I discussed in my previous video, and I highly recommend lubricating these as well before installing them. It'll just make it last longer. So, without further explanation, let's get started. Alright guys, I'm going to show you how to perform maintenance on a Nintendo 64 control stick. This works best on new sticks that are in great shape. I bought this controller used, and the control stick is really tight, it's smooth, and I'm going to show you how to lubricate it so it lasts longer, it doesn't wear out as quickly as if you just left it the way it was. Prevention is the best way to stop the Nintendo 64 stick from wearing out. It won't prevent it completely, but it'll make your sticks last a lot longer, and that's pretty much the main goal. Though while we're in there looking at it, I'll point out what pieces wear down and how that affects the control stick in different ways based on the research I've done and the testing I've done with other Nintendo 64 controllers. So to do this, you're going to need a Nintendo 64 controller with a good stick. You can also perform the lubrication process to a good replacement stick, which I mentioned in a previous video, but it's best to do it to a new stick. You could try this with a damaged stick, but I don't know what the results will be. So what you're going to need is a screwdriver, Phillips head. You might need two to get some of the screws out that are a little smaller, but this one always seems to do the trick for me. Some toothpicks are good to help lubricate later on. And you're going to need some dielectric grease. So to start off, you want to look at the back of your Nintendo 64 controller and you want to remove all the screws. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is up here, 6, 7, and then there's two smaller screws up in here, 8 and 9. So go ahead and remove those screws. Okay, I just finished removing the screws. If you had any trouble with the two up there, it might be because you need a smaller screwdriver. But now we're going to remove the back of the Nintendo 64 controller. Carefully pull that off and put that to the side. Whoops. And this is what you should see. Before you do anything, I recommend removing this part here. This is how the control stick pretty much talks to the rest of the controller. You want to get this piece out of here. Now, in other videos I've seen people pull this by the wires. I don't like that. I like to pry something in there, a fingernail, anything. So you just want to get it in between the two pieces of plastic here. You can see a little groove where this piece here meets the top piece. And just pull that out carefully. You don't want to snap those wires because that'll pretty much render your functional stick worthless. And even if you have a bad stick, you might still be able to use that for parts later on. So carefully remove that. Now, you're going to notice there are 3 screws here. You're going to want to remove those, but first we should take this off too. We almost forgot about that. This is the Z button. So you just want to pull these tabs on the side here. There's a tab here and a tab here. You want to pull those away from each other this way and release the board and the button. So you pull one to the side, get one end up, the other end slips up. Pull that up. Then remove the 3 screws. 1, 2, and 3. Don't remove this screw yet. It's right here, right above it. You just want to remove these gold ones. To get the whole stick assembly out of the controller. Okay, once those 3 screws are removed, you can now pull the control stick assembly out of the controller. No problems. Put the controller aside for a little bit. We won't be needing it for a few minutes. And here is the good Nintendo 64 control stick that was inside that we need to lubricate. Now, there's one screw you want to remove here. You want to remove this one, but carefully hold the stick shut as you do this, because there's a spring in there that pushes it apart. So you want to be careful as you remove this screw. You don't want pieces to fly everywhere. Take that screw, put it aside. Now, you want to carefully pull back on these 2 tabs here, one at a time. This tab here, and this tab here, to let the top of the Nintendo 64 stick come out. Don't pull it back too hard, you don't want to risk breaking it. And the top should carefully come off, revealing the rest. So now you should have 2 pieces here, the bottom and the top. Now, since this stick isn't too bad, it's not too messy on the inside, but if you have a really bad control stick, there's going to be a lot of dust caked up. Remember how this looks. Take a good look at it, and we're going to take this apart and clean out the important parts. So you're going to take this board off, put that to the side. You're going to take this bottom piece off, put it over here. This black piece here, the wheels don't come off. Well, they can, but you don't need to remove these wheels on the side here. Just take this piece off here, put it to the side. We're going to need to clean a lot of this, just to be safe. On the top half of the stick, you want to take this black piece and turn it so it comes off. Put that to the side as well. You can put this ring to the side, the spring to the side, and you can pull the stick through the top now. Put everything to the side. Now, pieces you're going to want to wash off, clean out for any dust and grime are this white part and these 2 black parts here, as well as the stick. Just want to wash that in cold water, room temperature water, wipe it off, clean it out if there's dust in there. You might want to take a toothpick as well and scrape some of the dirt out, but don't scrape too hard on the plastic here. You don't want to scratch it, and I'll explain why in a minute. So just clean out this whole setup here, these 4 pieces with water, and I'll do that and continue making the video in a second. So I cleaned everything out with water, I let it dry, so we're ready to move on to the next step. But first I want to talk about what wears out on the Nintendo 64 controller. If you're experiencing loose stick, so the stick's real loose in your controller, it wobbles around a lot, going in different directions, what's wearing out are probably these black parts here and possibly the control stick. Now, the stick rests in this piece as shown, and as you wobble it around, it wears down on this black piece and on this part of the stick, as well as a bit higher up for the other piece. But it pretty much wears it down. So in loose Nintendo 64 sticks, you'll see that this black part here isn't flat here. It cuts in and makes a little loop, like a little U shape in the plastic from just friction and wearing down. So we're going to lubricate the stick to make that friction a little less, make it nicer. If you're experiencing a gritty, grindy feeling, most of that's coming from this part here wearing out and this part. As you move the Nintendo 64 stick around, the bottom of the stick here rubs against this white part, and that over time just wears down, and that's where all the controller dust really comes from, and that's where the gritty feeling comes out. I've done experiments where just replacing this piece with a fresh one in the controller will make it feel a lot smoother. But the bottom part of the stick here, that wears down sometimes too, so it's not a permanent solution. So we're going to lubricate the bottom of this as well, so the movement across it's much smoother, and that doesn't wear down as quickly either. So we're going to start out with the white piece here. I'm going to take some dielectric grease. I'm going to put some right in the center there. You don't want too much. Then you're going to take a toothpick, I like to do, and spread it around. You'll know if you put too much if when you're done with the whole process. The stick is real sticky and it's not going away. So spread that around a bit down there. Let me take a closer look. You want a fair amount in there. I probably put too much. You probably don't want to use as much as I use. I'm going to put a little more. Knowing how much to put is more of practice and getting a feel for it. So you really want to coat the whole bottom here, the layer of dielectric grease. And like I said, I probably put too much, but it will give the stick a little bit smoother of a feel. So once that's done, actually we're not done here. Each of these four spots, these four sides, has a little notch in it. That's where the black pieces rest in the controller. You want to lubricate those spots too, but be careful not to get any in these wheels, otherwise your stick won't function properly until you clean it out. I believe how that works is some sort of light shines through there, and that's how it determines the degrees of which you're moving the control stick, because those black parts turn these wheels. So you don't want to get any lubricant in the holes on that wheel. You can see there's little holes on the edge there, so be careful of that. So you want to take a little bit of lubricant, put it on the toothpick, and get some in each of those spots where the black piece is going to be rubbing. Again, you don't need too much. And you're done with that white piece for now. So you can put that to the side. The next piece you're going to want to do is this black part, the one that goes in the bottom of the white piece. Again, you want to get some of the lubricant on a toothpick just so you can get in there a little easier. And you want to coat the insides of this ring. This is where the stick itself rubs against it. So make sure you coat the inside. Alright, after the inside's coated, you want to take a little bit more, and you want to put that on the edges here, the little small part. That's where it makes contact with the last part we lubricated on the white piece. Just want to add some more there. So basically we're just adding lubricant to all the friction points in the Nintendo 64 controller. After you complete this black piece, move on to the next one. Do the same thing. You want to coat the inside ring, and you want to coat this inside ring just like the last one, and you want to coat these edges here where the black part will meet the white part. Once you finish coating this black part, you can put that aside now. And you want to come over to the Nintendo 64 control stick itself. Whoops. So you want to add some grease to this as well. You want to coat the small thin piece down here in between the ball and the rectangular part down here. So you want to coat that. And you want to coat the bottom here where this little spherical nub is. So you want to coat that as well. And I usually put a little bit on the sides here, but you don't want too much because that will come out of the controller a little bit as you use it. So coat that up. Okay, once you're done coating the control stick, you're pretty much done lubricating everything. So now we just have to put everything back together. You're going to want to take this piece here and put it back in the top. Pops right in, no problem. Take this black piece. These aren't interchangeable, so make sure you have the right black piece like this in the correct spot. You want to put it going this way. Basically it lines up with that wheel to turn the gears. And you want to put that all in the bottom assembly. Oops. So don't put this part in first. Put the white piece in, my bad. Skipping ahead here. Put that white piece in. Then you could put the board back on. There we go. And you want to put the stick back through the part of the controller that many of you are used to seeing. Stick it in there so it sticks up. Then you want to put the spring on top as shown. And while this is in here, you want the Nintendo 64 stick, you want it to be going horizontally like this, because you need to slip this black piece on sideways with the, and you want to turn it so it sticks like that. And you really need these to go in the correct way or else it's not going to work. So now you're going to take the long part of the stick right here. You're going to push it back to right here, rather. You're going to line it up with everything else. You're going to put it together carefully. Don't really force anything. You want to give it a little pressure to pop into place. Squeeze it till these tabs go back down. So get that screw in, squeeze it shut, makes it a little easier. You want to make sure it's down all the way. When tightening the screws, don't make anything too tight. Alright, now you could give it a feel. Right now it feels a little sticky because I put a decent amount in there. That's okay for a while because you want to work it around a bit until everything settles. So the stick may feel a little slow to snap back, but give it some time to settle after using it for a bit. And in the meantime, you'll just have to suffer. If you don't like it, you can go in and take some of the dielectric grease out. You may have used too much, but I think I did okay here after I wear it in. You'll feel it's really smooth, isn't as much friction. So after that, I like to do a optional step. I create a little note here saying what I did. It says stock N64 stick cleaned and lubricated with dielectric grease on today's date. So I'm going to take a piece of tape, probably too big a piece of tape, and I'm going to put that note on there. And I'm going to stick it on the back of the control stick here if I can. Actually, I'm going to stick this inside the controller. It's a little easier. I never put it here before, but I thought I'd see if it would fit there, because this is a clear controller, and it might not look as nice to have it there, but I'd rather have my notes so I know what I did to this controller. So, now you're going to take the bottom half of the controller, make sure everything's in place, put the stick back in, as shown. Then you're going to put the 3 screws, 1, 2, and 3 back in. Once the 3 screws are back in place, you want to put the Z button back in the appropriate spot. Just slides right in there, pops in. Make sure everything's lined up correctly. And then you want to take this piece and slide it back into where you pulled it out from. And I always like to be careful with that piece. Now we can put the back on. Actually, almost forgot my note. I like to take that note that I was mentioning before, stick it somewhere on the back here, so if I open it up, I know what kind of maintenance I performed to the stick and the controller itself, just as a little record for myself. Put the back on. Now you have to put the screws back in. Remember, there's 9 of them, I believe. Got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the 2 up here, 8 and 9. If you have trouble with these, a little trick I do is I put a little dielectric grease on the tip here if it's not sticking, and you want to bring the screws in sideways into the correct spot and screw them in. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Now that all the screws are back in, you're ready to go test your Nintendo 64 controller. Real quick, I'm not sure if I mentioned it when putting everything back together, but remember, these 2 screws are smaller than the others, so make sure you're putting the right screws in the right place. If the stick is still sticky after a while, it's not bouncing the way you like it, I mean, this isn't too bad, it'll probably wear in just fine over time. If you don't like it, take it apart, do it again, use a little bit less dielectric grease. And if you notice there's some errors with the controller from the start, it's not reading correctly, you probably got some grease in those wheels I was telling you about too. So I hope this video helped everybody, and I hope you maintain your working Nintendo 64 controllers so that they last a long time. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully your Nintendo 64 controllers will last longer than ever now. Please share this video with people, because the more N64 controllers that survive, the better. It's just good for everybody. Now, if you have any other tips on how to repair the Nintendo 64 controller in any way, feel free to comment on it below. If you like this video, subscribe to me here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter at KingNintendoFan. You can like me on Facebook. And be sure to read my written pieces on rip10.com. The links for everything are below.